Hi everybody, so I want to make a video today about just some general advice and our family suggestions about hiking with children. So my husband and I have been hiking with our kids since they were babies, and we had to do that backpack carrier. So you would carry them in that, and they'd be yanking your hair and hitting your head as they're going down the trail, and then you're just carrying all that weight. But we felt that it was important to get them outside to do what we like to do, which is hike, and bring them along with us. So obviously, as your children move through the different ages and stages, some of this advice is going to apply and some of it isn't. My overall just general advice is if you love hiking or you want to have your family spend time outdoors, take your kids outside early. It definitely helps if you can get them started when they're in that backpack carrier, if you can get them used to just that, hey, our family goes hiking, this is what we do. And that's something that we started to do. We took our son, he was 1 when we went to our very first national park with the kids, and that was Shenandoah. So we've kind of just started our kids young with hiking. So when you hike with little kids, the one thing I want to say is you really have to lower your expectations. When you're hiking with very, very young kids, you're going to have to just be satisfied with maybe you're going to go a half a mile, maybe you're going to go a mile down the trail, and that's as good as it's going to get while they're learning to hike and they're building up their stamina. But take it for what it is. I know that in our family, we kind of thought of like, the more we hike with our kids, the more comfortable they're going to be at this, the better they're going to be at it. And it's kind of an investment in the long run. So that's what I kind of see it as. So if you're going to hike with young kids, lower your expectations. Don't think you're going to do some like super long hike, because that's not going to happen, especially if you need them to walk on their own. Start small, build from there. Okay, so another thing that you cannot underestimate when you hike with kids is the amount of snacks and water you need to bring. Sometimes I feel ridiculous. I have teenagers now, and the amount of snacks that I have to pack for a hike to kind of just keep my kids happy is a lot. And it's also a lot when you have that preschool age and that elementary school age. Always overpack on snacks. You can't have enough apples and granola bars and things like that. Make sure you have water for everybody, all that kind of thing, because you always end up needing more than you think you will. So my advice with that is overpack on the snacks to keep everybody happy. My next piece of advice is, even if you're just going on a quick 1-mile hike with kids, always be prepared. Always carry that first aid kit. We have a particular hike I'm thinking of in my mind. It was during the COVID pandemic. We just had to get out of the house. So we went to a local hiking preserve, and we go and we start the hike. I didn't bring a backpack. I just was like, you know what? This is just a very quick, like half an hour hike. And one of my kids stops down to look at something, and here they end up touching a piece of sawgrass and like sliding their finger across it, and they end up slicing like a pretty deep slice in their finger. And of all times, didn't have the backpack with me, didn't have Band-Aids. So we had a face mask. We wrapped the face mask around the cut to kind of stop the bleeding, made our way back to the car, got home, cleaned it up. But even when you think you don't need that first aid kit or those kind of supplies, learn from me. Always, always bring them, because somebody is bound to fall down. Somebody is bound to get hurt, and you'll just feel so much better if you have what you need. Another thing that has been really helpful for our family is to get an early start. When you have young kids hiking with you, you want to make sure that you're not going to be on a crowded trail. Kids like to stop and look at things. They like to take their time. You don't want your kids to feel rushed or be crowded to the edge of a ledge, where they could possibly fall. And we find that getting that earlier start, kids have more energy in the morning. That was always super helpful to our family. They get up early, get to the trailhead early, get the trail done when it is less crowded. And then everybody just has, in general, just a better time, because you're not worrying about crowds. You're not worrying about your kids slowing people down or getting in other people's way. Okay, so another thing that has been really helpful is choose your trail carefully. Some of this is kind of common sense, but it's things that we've learned along the way. So we found that when we were hiking with our kids, they kind of wander all over the trail. They see different things. And one of the worst types of trails for hiking with young kids we found is the multi-use trail. Our kids, they just don't pay attention, and people would race by with bicycles, And for me, I would just get so tense. I'd be, everybody pay attention to the bicycles. And it created what was supposed to be just a fun experience into something very tense. So my general advice is, if you've got young kids that don't pay attention, avoid the multi-use trail, because you don't want to have to be looking out and having your kids, yelling at your kids all the time to pay attention for bicycles. Because especially with the e-bikes, people go really, really fast, and they're not expecting a kid to be wandering in the middle of the trail. So I say avoid the multi-use trails if you've got young kids that don't pay attention. As kids have gotten older, they've been able to complete all different kinds of hikes. And some of the things that have helped us kind of get our kids hiking is to kind of like, when we go to a national park, when they were younger, kind of like at elementary school age, you know, we used to kind of read books. We used to look at videos and things to kind of set the stage, to show them, you know, what's really cool about this park and what to expect. And, oh, look at this hike. This is the best hike. And for example, like when we went to Yellowstone, the kids were fairly little. And one of the hikes that we really wanted to do was to hike up Mount Washburn. And we wanted to do that because you can often see bighorn sheep on the mountain. So we kind of showed the kids, hey, this is what a bighorn sheep looks like. Would you like to see one of these? And you kind of help build the kids' excitement. And I find that at that elementary school age really goes a long way. And our kids were able to do that hike. It was probably one of their first more difficult hikes. We got to see the bighorn sheep. They actually crossed right in front of us. So that was really, really cool. So I'd say it helps to get your kids excited about things. If you are planning a more strenuous or adventurous hike with your kids, and you know they're at that right ability level that they can complete it, another thing that has really helped us is getting them the proper gear. So for example, we were in Glacier National Park. We hiked to Grinnell Glacier, which I think was something like a 8-mile hike. And my kids were in older elementary school age. So one of the things we did is we got them their own little mini backpack, and they all had their own hydration pack. And we found that that's super helpful, because instead of, Mom, I need a drink, I need to stop, they can drink water as they go. You know, they're kind of in control of getting their own snacks and making sure they drink their water. And it's kind of a novelty. My son destroyed his hydration pack when he was little because he would just chew on the bite valve. So he's gone through 2 of them, but it's been super helpful to just make sure that they're hydrating enough, and they get very excited about the gear. They want to use it. So a little bit of gear can really go a long way. I also highly recommend getting the kids hiking boots. It just helps. Nobody gets a sprained ankle. They're going to have better grip as they hike. And, you know, you don't have to get anything super, super fancy. Hiking boots from Walmart, used boots from a thrift store, because they will grow through them really, really fast if they're still at the age where they're growing. But that's something we have always done. We've always made sure they've had the hiking boots. We've gotten them these little additional pieces of gear that makes the hike a little bit easier. And we found that that's worked out really well. If you are hiking with little kids, don't underestimate the power of just like silly games and different word games or I Spy and things like that on the trail. Bring binoculars. We used to bring, sometimes if it's not a national park and you're allowed to forage and collect things, our kids would collect acorns or little things like that along the trail, or we'd make a scavenger hunt for them. So simple things like that can really go a long way with little kids. When all else fails, tell jokes, sing songs, whatever you need to do to just keep everybody moving and keep everybody happy on the trail. Another suggestion I have is that if you're hiking as an adult, a lot of times you're trying to keep a certain pace. You're trying to get the hike done in a certain amount of time. When you're hiking with kids, whether they're little or big, you're going to have to build in more breaks. You're going to have to take more pauses, and just be aware of that. Enjoy the snack breaks, sit and talk with them, enjoy those moments to just kind of relax and take in the scenery. And it's all part of hiking with kids. So we currently have 2 teenagers, and I will say it's a lot easier to get younger children out on the hiking trail than it is to get teenagers. But some things that have helped our family just in general get our kids outside and get our kids hiking is to find the thing that your child is most interested in. Like my teenage daughter, she loves kayaking. She likes finding fossils. There's just certain things that kids are really excited about. And I encourage you to find the thing that they're excited about and then try to pick hikes or take them places that incorporate that thing. My son loves fishing. He likes going crabbing. So we do all these kind of things in the summer to get him outside. Our family is planning a trip to Big Bend in December. And one of the things that my kids thought sounded so cool is they want to soak in a hot spring. So I picked a hike where we're going to hike, and then we're going to go soak in the hot spring in our bathing suits. So the key is to get teenagers excited, is to find that thing that they're interested in and that they're curious about, and then kind of give them a chance to help give input on what hike you want to do. I find that, you know, as the adult, you can't make all the choices. You need to give teenagers some control. So let them kind of help plan the trip, help them give input on which hikes. So another thing that has really helped our family is that when we do a big trip like national park, we know it can't just be all hiking because our teenagers would totally revolt. So we try to build in things like swimming at the hotel pool, or maybe just a short little nature trail. You know, we try to balance. We do a challenging hike, but then we'll have a day where we relax, or we'll do an easy hike. So it's all about finding that balance and finding that compromise about what everybody in your family likes, and trying to just get everybody on board with the same page. Hiking with kids, my advice to you is be very, very certain that you know what trail you're going to go on, that you know exactly what direction you're going to go, that the trailhead is well marked, all that kind of stuff. Because one of the worst things is, you know, you're hiking, you're being distracted, you're watching your children, and then the trail, you find yourself lost. That is such an upsetting feeling. It's super unfun. We did a hike in Yosemite years ago. I had kind of planned out the hike, but at the last minute, my husband, not to throw him under the bus here, but he was like, hey, we should add on this additional leg. And at the time this is like pre All Trails, cell phone service, that type of thing. So we had this like book, and he's like, oh, this wouldn't be much further to add on this. Well, it wasn't much further, but it was incredibly hard. Just a lot of elevation change, a lot of wet, slippery steps. And it ended up being like, seriously, it was not too fun. And by the time we were all done, we were all miserable. Hiking with kids, I would say try to avoid those last minute itinerary changes unless you've really researched it and vetted it. Because just one of the worst things is having a hike be harder than you anticipated, or getting lost with your kids. You want to avoid situations like that by being prepared, knowing where you're going, knowing exactly what everybody can kind of do in their ability limits. So I hope that some of my tips are helpful to you if you're trying to encourage your children to spend more time outside, if you're trying to get your kids out on the hiking trail. Like I said, start them young if you can, but I really think it's never too late to get kids outside. Even if you have teenagers, if you have school-age kids, like I said, find that thing that interests them. Offer them a bunch of different choices of where they might like to hike and trails they might like to do, and let them pick. And I find that when you let your kids choose and you let your kids put some input in, they're going to go along with it more. You're going to have a better time. They're going to be more willing to do things. So I hope that this advice helps you. I'm going to have some links in my description of some of the gear that has helped us hike with our family over the years. So be sure to let me know in the comments, have you ever hiked with kids before, whether they're your own or whether your nieces or nephews or family friends? Let me know. Did you find any of this advice helpful? Have a great day, guys, and thanks for watching.